One of the problems with news news magazines and motorcycle magazines doing reviews of bikes is that they only have the bike for like 1 week tops. Sometimes they have these long reviews, but oftentimes they never put a lot of miles on bikes. And for a guy like me who values durability in very ease of maintenance and stuff like that, like you can't take away much from how a bike rides on the track. I'm sure there's a lot of guys who like that, but there's a segment of the population that does a lot of touring, a lot of long distance riding. And for me, whenever I listen to moto journalists, you have to take things with a grain of salt. Just because they don't have bikes for a very long time, they don't maintain the bikes themselves. It's all about the initial impressions, which is okay. But to me, the ability to live with a bike for a couple of years is more important than how the bike handles on the twisties. That's why I like the V-Strom. You don't hear motorcyclist magazines raving about it anymore because it's old hat. It's old news. And I think that's what I like about the V-Strom. It's old news, therefore everything has been worked out. Everything has been said about this bike. And a lot of times you don't hear the verdict. You don't hear riders on YouTube talking about how they put 50,000 miles trouble-free on their bikes. But those are the reviews I really enjoy. Because if you put like 100,000 miles on a bike and it doesn't give you any problems, that's a good bike. I mean, the definition for me, a good durable bike is a bike that gets 100 to 150,000 miles with very little maintenance. And there are a lot of guys who put that sort of miles on bikes. They're usually not the sport bike guys, but you get a lot of touring guys, ADV touring guys put tons of miles on bikes. But you would never hear about the problems, like electrical problems on the V-Strom from motorcycle magazines, because they don't ride them that much to know of all the problems. They just talk about like these things that are insignificant. Because if you've been riding for a while, you know that in a competent hands, a V-Strom 650, whatever bike, replace whatever bike, with any bike is just as capable as a super fast bike, because most people do not ride over a certain amount of skill. It takes a very skilled person to ride a motorcycle very fast. And I have yet, of all the riding I've done, I have yet to see great talented riders. I think talented riders, maybe I can count them on one hand. And there's not many. There's not many great motorcycle riders that I've ever met. I'm sure, I think if you were to talk to people online, everybody likes to think that they're experts. Even people who are just starting out think they're experts. But actually, that is a phenomena to motorcyclists. A lot of it is bravado and ego talking. It's kind of amazing because you wouldn't see that sort of bravado for major downhill skiing or something that requires a lot of skill like martial arts. You don't get a lot of bravado, and if you do have a lot of bravado in the beginning in martial arts, you're kind of going to get your ass whooped, and you learn real fast how good you are. Like, you learn who's really good right off the bat. And everything, I kind of relate it to martial arts, even though I'm not a great martial artist. But you could be a black belt in a dojo, right? And you could be kicking everybody's ass in that dojo, and then you go to another state and there's a black belt better than you. And it just keeps going on like this. You go from town to town. There's different people with different skills, with better skills than you, and it almost feels as if it's impossible to get to that level. Because motorcycling is kind of like bodybuilding. When you start working out, you get, it's hard in the beginning, and it never stops being hard. But in bodybuilding and lifting weights, you lift in the beginning, you get strong right off the bat, but then by doing the exact same things, you kind of plateau. And this is what happens with martial artists and motorcyclists. You plateau at a level, and different people plateau at different levels. And it's very difficult to get out of that plateau. A lot of people do all sorts of exercises to get their body to adjust to other exercises, shock your body. Same thing with motorcycling. You go to tracks, you go to off-roading. That makes you a better rider because you're learning different skills. But it's the same thing for riding in different weather, riding in different temperatures. All of that adds to your ability as a motorcyclist.